It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, June 9th. And so happy for you joining us, and we are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Friday. I am so happy. Well, it's Thursday for me over here, but it's the last podcast of the week. We made it through another week, and I am just so thankful to God that, we made it through without any hiccups on this podcast either. What do you guys got planned for your weekend? Would love to hear what's going on with you, anything special. And, for those of you guys out there right now who haven't done so yet, go ahead, leave a like or a comment to build this community. Really happy for everyone joining us on the weekdays for the Morning Star Drive and the other programs we have too. And, let's do it. Let's get up, support each other each and every day. I really want to make sure that this becomes a very open and transparent community that we can just really talk about the things that are in our hearts and our minds. And, I'm loving it. I'm loving this this channel right now. And I'm so focused on this more than my other channel. Like, I rarely put stuff up in the other channel right now. I just got a lot of shorts going up. But I am super grateful and thankful that you guys are always the ones that are supporting. All right, so it is Friday. Last day of the work week. I'm sure there's a big sigh of relief that we've made it to the end of the week. And, now that we're at the end of the week, I think it's one of the things that we should be doing is looking at what has God done for us this week. Right? What are you so thankful for this week? And I think it's good to look back at the last 5-6 days, right, from Sunday until now, and think about all the things that God has done for you that you are thankful for. And you know what? If we want to, let's start a Thanksgiving thread in the comments. Start a Thanksgiving thread and just write what you are thankful for, something that God did for you this week. Like, I'm going to start too. I'm thankful for, number one is that time with my brother on his birthday. And just spending, I rarely get this time to spend one-on-one with him, right? And it was just a really, really good time. Thankful. And, like I told you on Monday or Tuesday, I am super thankful that God inspired us to go early to our reservation and get, and save, a ton of money, too. So I'm thankful for that. And another thing I'm super thankful for that, I have to be thankful while it's happening right now is I'm thankful for my parents' health. And, I talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, but just seeing how they live their life is very inspiring for me. Last weekend they went to Whistler Blackcomb to go on vacation with their friends. Yesterday, for lunch, they both went out on a date, right? So I was like, that's cool. And then today, they went out to meet a couple of other friends just to have lunch together and stuff. My dad doesn't, my dad's working a part-time job and stuff because, he's just bored, right? But just seeing them at 76 and 71, being able to just freely go about, do the things they need to do, I am super grateful and thankful to God that my parents are healthy and they can live this type of lifestyle too. So that's kind of the thread that I'll post it up first as the first thread for this week's podcast. And I told you guys about the funny thread in the Provipuff Girls of chat room. There's a funny one with the guys, the thread in the man cave right now, right? And I'm kind of reading it here and there. We're talking about how can we make the man cave more manly. And you guys just need to know the mind of a guy. So I put stuff up hey man, let's record our next episode and we're all holding guns, right? Another person's yeah man, I'll get my flamethrower ready from the flamethrower that Elon Musk made. I'll get that one ready. And then we're all writing down stuff I'm gonna go downtown, I'm gonna fight some homeless people. Someone else is yeah man, we should have scars on our faces. Other people are I'm just gonna take my dumbbells from the gym and hold them for the whole episode. Don't you see how stupid guys are? I just laugh at this because This is how we talk, and this is the things that we do, in the chat rooms, right? Like, I'll tell you, remember I told you what the girls do? The girls are talking like they have these brainstorming sessions so organized and stuff, and we're not even talking about topics. We're talking about how to make it more manly, and we all have stupid answers. It's so funny. Oh gosh. And the guys out there, guys, you can all relate to this, right? We're supposed to be doing something else, but we make it into this big joke, and now we're talking about Oh, it's so stupid. I love it. I don't know I don't know if girls talk like that. Like I'm dumbfounded. I'm really dumbfounded because at the time when I'm writing it, we're like, yeah. But then after, when you read the entire thread, you're like, that's so stupid. But I'm sure girls do something like that too, right? For me, it's already a busy day. It's a busy day for me. I actually made a mistake in the morning because, sometimes on Instagram, I'll post like my workout and then I'll put a song on it. But I posted this song that had a ton of like cussing in it. It did. Right? I thought it was a clean version. I put the clean edit, the clean version, right? But it wasn't. And then, someone messaged me on Instagram like, hey, do you know that you have I'm like, oh no, I thought it was a clean edit, right? And then I deleted it right away. But for me is, the one thing that I'm going to also be thankful for is that, especially as people who are in this history together, who are in the history of God, we are able to hold each other accountable. And I think that's great. That's a great thing that we should have, right? Because sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we need to apologize and we got to move forward. But the thing that makes me very, very grateful and thankful is when we hold each other accountable, it leaves out the assumptions like, oh, this is the bad pastor. Oh, this person's like this. Like we eliminate assumptions. And it's just, I had such a kind text message like, hey, did you put this up on purpose? Is this a mistake? And I was like, oh no, it's a song from it's a song from my childhood. Oh, this. I love this song. And they're like, and then they told me to listen to it again, that there was cussing. I was like, there's no cussing in it. So I listened to it. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much cussing in it. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I took it down right away, right? And for me, that is something I look at and I say, yeah, I think that's a great thing to have as brothers and sisters in this history, right? Having God there too, like, because most of the time we can't hear God's voice. And we can't see God looking at us and pointing the finger, waving the finger like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's one of the roles we have, is to become the body of God, the body of the Lord, and kind of hold each other accountable. And sometimes we make mistakes, and I was very gracious. Not gracious. I was so thankful that someone actually told me, or else it just would have been going on the entire time. So I think that is a great thing that we need even more. And I hope that we can hold each other accountable without judging, but just hold each other accountable. So my morning was already that busy. Oh, and I had a crazy dream this morning. Like crazy. You know one of those dreams where you're dreaming, you're in it, and then you wake up like, what the heck? And then you go back to sleep and you're back in the dream. I had that type of dream. So this is how crazy the dream was. Right? It felt like I was in the dream for hours. So there was an elder. So there's an elder that I knew, and they had a daughter. And in the dream, I had a secret relationship with the daughter of the elder. And eventually, I got caught by the elder. And the elder was very, very nice to me and stuff. But it was crazy. Yeah, like I was like, running through me and this elder's daughter, and I was thinking about like, man, what does that mean? Right? Like, and I really had, I'm still thinking about it because, it was this morning. And, I'm like, so does the elder symbolize God? Does it symbolize Jesus? Or, does that mean I'm not cheating on God, but I'm doing something secretly? With who or what? And so I was just like, man, what does this mean? So I need to think about this. So it's one of those dreams, like I said, it's one of those dreams so real. It's the one that you wake up to, you're like, whoa, I can't believe this. Actually, what's even weirder about this dream? While I'm in the dream, I know it's a dream. Tell me that's weird. I knew it was a dream where I was getting caught by the elder, and in my head, I was just like, this is just a dream though. Tell me that's weird. Yeah, it was so weird to me. I was just like, oh God, I gotta pray about this. Figure out what is God saying to me at this moment. I've been looking at people's Instagrams as I always do, and I like and I comment on them and stuff like that. But there's a couple of there's one that got me interested is in Malaysia. There's like this viral video of a Singaporean stand-up comedian. Her name is Jocelyn Chia. Okay, it's going viral in Malaysia, and she's totally making fun of Malaysia. She makes fun of like how Malaysia's still developing and Singapore is one of the highest countries in the world. And of course, that the Malaysian airplane that crashed, right? And I look at it and I see that a lot of Malaysians are furious about it. I'm not sure if I know there's Malaysians that listen to this podcast too. I was just like, really? That's interesting. And when I listened to this, I was so curious about it that I typed up Jocelyn Chia and I looked up and I listened to that portion of the comedy. I listened to it. And for me, coming from America where stand-up comedy is pretty normal, like it's a very, very normal thing. And the one thing that like stand-up comedians do is they'll make light or make fun of a situation that's very, very serious, right? And it's so that we can handle the situation better. We can kind of move along with it, right? And it's funny, right? And it doesn't matter how serious the topic is. And I think that's why, coming from my culture, from the Western countries, I listened to that stand-up from Jocelyn Chia, and I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny. I was just like, even in America, comedians will joke about LGBTQ. They'll joke about trans. They'll joke about like the people dying in COVID. Like they'll joke about all these things and make fun of them like crazy. And of course, there's going to be people like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? But the vast majority of people who go to watch comedians, they're fine with it. They're fine with it. So for me, coming from my culture, my background, I just thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. It was at a comedy club. I believe it was in Singapore, so I'm not sure why people would have to, or even if it was in Malaysia, I'm not sure why people were laughing during that time too. And I think if you go to a comedy club, you should expect it to happen, right? And if you go to a comedy club, I think you should take things with a grain of salt. Like they're doing it to get laughs. And it is funny. I thought it was funny, right? And I think maybe it's more cultural. Right? I think it's much more cultural because I think when I look at Singapore is much more Western than Malaysia, but they're countries right next to each other. They're way more Western, right? And I think maybe, just in my personal opinion, from my I'd say the years I've lived in Malaysia, I think they take it more. They're more offended because it's coming from a Singaporean, and there's a big rivalry between the two countries, right? But for me I was like, it was funny, good job, and I never looked at it as, it's a comedian. They're doing it for fun to make laughs and stuff like that too. And when I thought about it, it's like, yeah, it's a cultural difference between the East and the West. I thought about myself too. I was like, you know what? There's something that's quite interesting because when I listen to, like when I talk to Asians, like say in church, there's a huge difference between the Asian culture and the Western culture of church, right? Because, the Western culture is way more independent, that the head leader or the pastor doesn't hold as much weight or power that, let's say an Asian, like a pastor in Asia would have. Because it's very top down in hierarchy in Asian culture, right? Listen to your elders, and whoever has titles, it's a very, very big thing. So when I talk to someone and they talk about, and they like, they'll talk about, not just talk about, when they are talking about the authority, and it's just an Asian culture thing more than a Western one. And I know how much more the people with titles and older hold power, right? But for me because I'm Western, I question right away. I was like, what's the purpose? Oh, what's the motive? Oh, what's the actual, is there an explanation, right? And that could be, it's for me is I have this disposition against authority. And I would say probably even more than most Westerners. I think I do. And I thought to myself why do I have this disposition where I'm against authority? right? Because I used to be a head leader too. I was a leader and stuff like that also. And I thought to myself, I must have had some trauma. And I think the only trauma that I can think of, which is kind of weird, like I'll tell you why it's weird. I think it's because that when I'm younger in this history, I kind of was more naive. And when I'm naive, I just say whatever the pastor says is right. I'll listen to whatever the pastor says. But then later later you realize and you recognize that, the pastors don't know everything. And that's kind of my perception. That was my fault because I just thought, oh, they're pastors. They know everything that's going on. So I'm just going to listen to them, right? And I only realized later that not everything the pastor said was right. Not everything the pastor said was, the right thing to do. And I think that realization took me in another direction, right? But, here's the funny thing is when I was pastoring a church and stuff, when I was a leader, I kind of felt like people should listen to me. So it's really weird how the mind works when you actually go into that position. So I would say that I am a rebel pastor. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to admit it. I'm a rebel pastor. I'm just naturally, my disposition is to go against authority. I'm a rebel pastor. I am, right? And you know what? This could be like a new Star Wars series. The Rebel Pastor. Let me get some music here. I'm going to do like a trailer to a movie. Right, here we go. In a galaxy far, far away, the Empire has seized the colony on Naboo. The Jedi have been long forgotten, and there is no one to rescue this colony. But there is one man who hates the power of authority, especially from the Empire. Raised as a pastor on Tatooine, but had one too many nights of fasting prayers. He is the Rebel Pastor. Gosh, you know what? I don't know what it is. I'm just stupid. Why do I even do this? I'm so stupid sometimes. I don't know. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment if we should actually make a movie called The Rebel Pastor. So already I know it's going to be a good weekend. It's definitely going to be a good weekend. I'm super and grateful for everyone joining us this entire week on this podcast. So much to think about, so much to be grateful about. And, actually, last thing before I get to the first break, I think my Sky girly voice is going to go viral. I really do think it is because a lot of girls are calling me and talking about it. They're like, Pastor Sky, I love your girly voice. It's so funny, right? And in my head, and here's the thing. These are text messages, but that's how I think they're saying it to me. That's how crazy it is, right? I'm like, this is what girls sound like. This is what they really sound like. So think about it. I'm reading a text, but in my head, it's Pastor Sky. That's what I'm actually getting in my head. Let me just get a random text here. I get a random text here. And it's just a text, remember. There's no one voicing it. But for me is I'll have it what it sounds like in my head, and just to make it better, I would add extra stuff. Here's one. This one says, "Hey Pastor Sky, just wanted to say I really appreciate your hard work on the podcast." And of course there's more, but hear me, in my head it changes to "Hey Pastor Sky, I just wanted to say I really appreciate your hard work on the podcast." Okay, toodaloo. So I'll add stuff in the end just to make it more girly. I don't know why. It's just, that's my brain. And because that's my brain, you're going to have to forgive me if I'm being a little bit too crazy with this kind of stuff. Either way, I'm going to end on that. We got to get into our first break.
When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, the whole universe. Never thought that living could be easy, so you taught me right from wrong. Now I'm free to be full of love, full of hope. I'm empty of all things. I'm living to make everyone come follow me. This is the west, I'll follow behind you step by step. Just like the stars above, we shining, shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. Just like the stars above, we shining, shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, the whole universe. You said believe in me, don't change, and then you'll see a life that lasts for all eternity. That will never live to have any regrets. I know you're the best, I'll step to the west, I'll follow behind you step by step. Just like the stars above, we shining, shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. Just like the stars above, we shining, shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from the love, it's yours. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, 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 the whole universe.
All right, so let's get into today's word study for today. And of course, we're going to go over the Wednesday message we just had this week. I hope that everyone really enjoyed it and received a lot of grace from it too. Me too, listened to the word. I really liked some of the points that came out of it. And of course, the Wednesday message is kind of a deeper dive into the Sunday message, right? So this week's message is about, one second, the title is, The Person Who Sees the Word is a Person Who Sees God. And we're going all over the book, the Gospel of John in this one too. So we see this week's message, you see the Word, you see God. And, you know, if you really want to know the heart of God and what God really wants, everything is contained inside the Word, inside the Bible. And if you want to hear the words, like, one thing that we do have to take into consideration is when we say, listen to the words of the time period and the Bible, right? And if you think about in the Old Testament time too, there was only the Old Testament, right? And those books were split up also. So you have the Old Testament books, and then you had Jesus who came to speak and preach, where his words were not literally in the Bible, which means you couldn't say the Bible back then because his words weren't actually put in the Bible yet. So you have to understand when it says, we have to read the Bible. If you want to see God, you have to read the Bible and read the words of the time period, right? So at the time of Jesus, it was the words that he was saying, and through that, right, we're able to see God, which means that especially in the time where the man of mission is here, remember, the word of the time period comes through the one that God sent. The time of Noah, it came through his lips that the flood would come. The time of Moses to leave Egypt, right? All these people of the time period were the ones delivering the words of the time period in real time. And there was, I think the time of Moses, there wasn't even a Bible at that time either, right? So if you look at this week's scriptures, there's one point talking about where Jesus and Philip are talking. Right? And Philip is like, I want to see God, right? Show us God, then we'll believe. And I think this is maybe a common thing that you hear today just in the world itself, where people are asking, I want to see God, then I'll believe. And when Jesus heard that, he says, anyone who's seen me has seen God. And to really comprehend what that means, it's something that you have to look at very, very spiritually and deeply. You've seen Jesus, you've seen God. Why? Well, John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18 from this week's scriptures, is talking about the words that became flesh and dwelt among us, which means that if John chapter 1 verse 1 is true, that God is the Word, and then the Word becomes flesh and dwells among us, then Jesus is the living Word, meaning everything that the Word says, Jesus is living by and he is teaching. And this is why those who could not understand and misunderstood what Jesus actually said were the ones that became those who opposed the Lord, right? Because they're thinking, oh, that means that he was literally God, and they all went against it. But those who were spiritual, those who understand the word, rejoiced, delighted in it, and these were the ones that went to the domain of life. They were the ones that became the disciples, the apostles of the time. And this is why understanding, seeing the word is seeing God. Seeing Jesus is seeing God. It's because he brought the word and he lived exactly by it, right? So the thing, when it comes to us, why we can't say those things, it's mainly because a lot of times we speak by our own thoughts. Or it depends on the situation and circumstance we're in at that moment. And what happens then is we start to even we kind of tweak the words and we make it more towards that favors us. But when you look at Jesus, he only preached God's word, right? And this is why seeing Jesus is seeing God, right? And if you look at it even right now, even after Jesus died, what is the one thing that has held steadfast for the last 2,000 years? It's been the words of God. And this is why we can commune and converse with Jesus through the word, right? And it's just like a great example that came from the message. It was when you guys read someone's autobiography, right? When you read their autobiography about their life, what they're going through, what they were thinking, you're able to understand their thoughts, their mentalities, right? Like, oh, this is what they were, this is the type of person this person was, right? So when you read the Bible, what does that mean? When you read the Bible, you're going to start to understand the thoughts and the mentality of God, of Jesus, right? You can converse through the Bible where you're going to say stuff like, hey, I don't get this, God. And when you read the Bible, God's like, oh, because of this. You're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. No wonder, God, right? And this is why when something focuses purely on the Bible, is not based on his own thoughts, but it's looking clearly for what does Jesus want to say, right? It's kind of like those wristbands that we used to all wear before the WWJD, what would Jesus do, right? Jesus speaks through the word, and it's very, very clear, right? And this is why when we hear a lot of stories of, oh, and then suddenly fell in love with Jesus through the words of God, right? Studied the Bible, put it into action, felt tremendous love from the Holy Trinity and Jesus while taking action on the word. And I think all of us here too, one of the things that really struck me was, imagine you could see a miracle of God once in your life, and from that one miracle, it could last for the rest of your life. That's pretty crazy. Because, we are in a society as what have you done for me lately? And we're not thinking about all the stuff that happened in the past, all that, it's like that miracle, oh, that miracle was 7 years ago. But imagine if that was enough. Imagine it was. And that's something that we have to kind of recalibrate our minds towards is, are we too much in the what have you done for me lately? Where we can look at least just one miracle, like even the miracle of the words of this time period. The reason why we're here. We've seen and experienced it. But we forget it. Right? We forget it. Like if there's the man of mission of God, what do you think he's going to do? Look at the Elishas. Look at the Noahs. Look at the Davids. They run with fervor continuously because they never forget. And that's why we have to get that in our heads. It's that proverb, if you forget, you will die. If we forget, we're not going to understand. If we forget, we're going to once again say to God, God, what have you done? And it doesn't even mean what have you done. It more means what have you done for me as of late. Everyone knows about the wildfires over there in eastern Canada. And, all the smoke has gone down to like the east coast of America. And I saw some pictures of New York. Man, it looks like straight up a Mad Max movie. Like New York looks terrible because of the air quality. But here's the thing. You see all that smoke. Does that mean you need to see the fire to know that there's a fire? No. When there's smoke, there's fire. Once you see the smoke, right? You don't need to say, oh, no, I don't believe it. I want to see the actual fire. No, once you see the smoke, everyone runs. We're like, no, we don't need to see the fire itself. And in the same way too, just as we don't see God, the Holy Spirit, we don't see Jesus, right? But you can tell by the result, right? When you see the smoke, you know there's fire. When you see the miracles that happen in our life, we know that they are there with us, the evidence of their existence. The word comes out. And when the word comes out, it's the person of God that takes action, right? And when they take action, they make miracles happen. And when we see that, we say, God was there. And when we look at the time we're living at right now, this is a time of more than just saying, I love God, or I will stay in this history till the end. It's a time of action. And how are, and here's the thing, I talk about this on yesterday's Sermons in the Sky, is if we don't take action, we'll never understand the heart of God. Because through actions, through experience, we realize, this is why. If we do the things that God wants, right, this is when we can say we truly, truly love God. Because we're doing what He wants. If I love my parents, if I really love them, if they ask me to clean, I'll do it. If they ask me to do this, I'll do it. So if you think about this, even, Jesus wasn't someone of just words. He was the one actually doing it, showing the people how to take care of the poor, how to heal, living the life for others, sacrificing His life. So if even Jesus, the Messiah, the divine being, makes things happen while taking action, so the real question is, what about us? If even Jesus, the one we follow, if even Jesus, the one we look up to, is going around doing all these things, then why aren't we taking action? Jesus says, do you think I gather where I don't scatter? No, I'm actually doing it. That's why I'm gaining something, because I actually do it. And this is even why we know that, when Jesus teaches a man a mission, same thing, teaches to take action. And when you take action and you see the amazing things that happen in your life, you'll be convicted to take more action. What is the ultimate evidence that the Holy Trinity, that Jesus, right? The man of vision, what's the greatest evidence that they love us? It's the fact we still get the word. That's the evidence. It's not of, do you love me? Well, how come my business is not doing well? No. The greatest sign is the word. It's not anything else. Or else what would have God left behind? God would have had Jesus stored riches, and then every time someone became a Christian, they would start giving money to them instead. But no, He knows that stuff is all going to spoil. It's going to rot. It's not going to last forever. The greatest thing He left behind for us is the word. And then the new question is, what is the greatest evidence that we love God? It's listening and taking action on the word. It's actually doing it. When we listen to the word, we will see God. And when we see God, we're like, wow, I listened to the word, I felt God at that time, I see Him. Because remember, when you think about it, when we say you're seeing God, it's not literally seeing God, because we can't see God anyways. But when you feel it in your heart, you've seen Him. You've seen Him with your heart. And then after, when you take action on the word, then God will accompany us and take action with us. It's the moment we do is the moment we feel. So if we don't take action, if we don't put the words of God into practice, then we start to feel left out. We start to lose the sense of history. What is happening in this history? Is anything going on? Why aren't things happening? It's because we haven't taken action. Remember, who is the, do you think God is trying to make you feel left out? And the answer is no, it's we. We are feeling left out. We are the ones taking action according to our own thoughts, our own desires. It's we that do it. We do it to ourselves. Why can't I feel God? You're not putting into action. Why can't I feel God? You're not listening to the words. You're not praying. Remember, we heard in the Sunday message, God planned for every single one of us to come to the history of God. And each and every one of us are going to have different roles in it. He's planned for everyone to come. We all have different positions. But it's kind of like what I talked about I talked about this on Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, is we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to others. We shouldn't feel left out when we don't touch the ball when the team scores in a soccer game. We shouldn't feel jealous if one of our own players scores the goal and everyone likes them. We're all on the same team, the team of Christ. We may have different positions. Some are hidden, right? Some positions are like behind the scenes, but we're still on the same team. I think the bigger issue we may have is recognizing or cherishing every person in the church. That might be a bigger issue. Everyone has their own responsibilities, but we may, spend too much time praising a certain group of people, right? No matter what position we all have, everyone is necessary and needed, right? Like, I'm left-handed. Just because I'm left-handed, does that mean my right hand is useless? The answer is absolutely not. And that's why we really need to, kind of look back at ourselves, reflect. Are we feeling left out in anything? Right? Understand this carefully. And we do need to repent if we've been treating others and putting them down because, what are you doing? What are you doing? And, I hear this a lot when it comes to families and career people. Like, what are you doing? Like, they can't be full-timers. That's not their role. The whole church can't be full-timers. Everyone has different roles. And because of those roles, we have to be able to respect and understand how great it is the things that we're doing. Especially now that we're in this big time of tribulation. What does that mean? It means that, in this big time of tribulation, we're going to be distracted. We're going to think to ourselves, what are they doing? What are they doing? People are struggling. And this is why we need to comfort each other, help each other, pray for each other, practice the love of Christ. When you look at what Christ has done for all the people that were poor and barren and homeless, whatever it was, he was living that life where he loved everyone. And in order for us to practice and do what Jesus did, we have to be those that seek first, right? That's why, is it Matthew 6:33? Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and then all these things will be given unto you, right? I think it's Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And I think that's what, as weird, this is so counterintuitive that if you want everything, you got to let go of everything. If I want something, I got to let go and not think about myself, but I have to think of others. But in the time of tribulation, we kind of turn to ourselves that I got to look at myself. Seek God. Seek the Lord. And this is when we are rewarded according to our actions. Right? The Holy Trinity, the Lord are with us. And they're doing everything in their power to keep us so that we all go to heaven. And we witness this love through the person God sends. We have to be those that understand and realize to that level. And when we realize to that level, we'll understand, that's exactly what I was experiencing. That's exactly what I thought, right? So I really hope this is something that all of us will understand too, and we'll bring ourselves to the next level, right? We have to realize even more deeply about this time that we're living in right now. And especially with this week's message, I hope that everyone has received a lot of grace, love, and inspiration, and even from today's word study. All right? So there's, guys, that's today's word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys had a great time, an inspirational time. Leave your comments below if you have anything you want to add to. All right? So let's move into our second break for today.
and set you free. Took away your pain and suffering, and I parted your Red Sea. You said thank you, hallelujah, this is heaven here on earth. I will live my life rejoicing, giving glory forever. As time went on, your heart changed. Your joy is gone. That's why I say, don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, the promises you made, my love. Don't forget the value of this time, the blessings you received in my domain of grace and love. Don't forget, though you're weaker and outnumbered, I give you the upper hand. Took you from a barren desert to your fertile promised land. You said thank you, hallelujah, you delivered me again. So I'll give my life to you and I will follow till the end. As time went on, your heart changed. Your joy is gone. That's why I say, don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, the promises you made, my love. Don't forget the value of this time, the blessings you received in my domain of grace and love. Don't forget. Cherish it, value it before it's too late, and everything you received gets taken away. Then you'll see that 1,000 years out there, it's nothing like just one day with me. Don't forget the love you had at first, the stories of the past, the promises you made, my love. Don't forget the value of this time, the blessings you received in my domain of grace and love. Don't forget, because 1,000 years out there, it's nothing like just one day with me.
All right, so we're supposed to get into this last segment today, which is Until the End Mental Health Podcast with Daniel Baker over there in Korea. And unfortunately, at this time, I'm still waiting for that final audio, but I've already reached the point where this podcast has to come out within the next 30 minutes, but I need time to upload it. So I think we're going to have to wait on this one until next week because we couldn't get that audio out, that finished complete audio out. So either way, So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's podcast. Unfortunately, yes, we couldn't get the Until the End mental health podcast out, but I'm glad that all of you were able to join us for this entire week. Have an amazing and awesome weekend. Enjoy your Sunday service, and we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm